Welcome to the How Did They Do It Real Estate Podcast. Have you ever wondered how people succeed in real estate and what steps they took to get there? If so, this podcast is for you. Your hosts, Sayla and Eileen Prack, interview top experts in the real estate community to share with you their real estate journey and how they achieved massive success. Our goal is to provide you with valuable real estate resources and to help you apply it to your own real estate goal. Welcome to today's episode of the How Did They Do It Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Eileen Prack. And today our guest is Jaspreet Baveja. Wait, did I say it correctly?
Baveja, yeah.
Baveja. All right. Okay. And he is an experienced multifamily syndicator who's been in the game since 2017 with over 675 units and $83 million of assets under management. He and his team have also completed 2 full cycle deals. So he has experience bringing deals from beginning to end. He also has 2 lovely young daughters under 10 years old, and he and his family love to travel. So we're going to get into that a little bit today too, because I want to find out where's your favorite place to travel, Jaspreet. Well, welcome to today's episode, and how are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Jaspreet, can you give us a little bit more of an insight into your background, who you are, and how did you get started with real estate?
Sure. Yeah. Born and raised in India. I was a teenager when I got to the US. Moved to the East Coast first, stayed there for a few years, and then I've been on the West Coast, just like yourself, in California for almost 13 years now. And I was working in the shipping industry, then financing industry, and then I got into healthcare. And in 2019 is when I retired from my W-2 work, and I was a healthcare regulatory compliance consultant at the time. So a lot of mouthful there, and definitely was not enjoying the work anyways, and found that I could leave my job. So definitely did. And overall, we just like you mentioned, we love to travel, and I love spending time with my family and being able to be that chauffeur in the morning, in the afternoon, to the evening classes, to the travel. Yeah, everything I'm the chauffeur for. So love doing that versus being stuck at a job that I don't want to be at. So yeah, I count my blessings.
The healthcare regulatory compliance industry, because my husband's also in healthcare and he's in IT. And so when you talk about the compliance side of things, especially during COVID, I remember he was just talking about all the new changes and all the compliance that they had to undergo through the hospitals and everything like that. And it was constantly changing like every other day.
Yeah. What company is he with?
He does it for like on the West Coast companies. So there's like different multiple hospitals that he works with.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
And so Jaspreet, when you were working a W-2 job, walk us through, how did you get yourself to a point where you're comfortable enough to leave your W-2 job to get into real estate full time?
Well, I think like most people, I bought a house with my wife. The family was growing, so we said, hey, it's too small, let's get into something bigger. Luckily we could afford it, bought a new place, didn't need to sell the old one, turn it into a rental. And it was probably one of the worst experiences of my life. We were expecting a kid, and we delivered the baby and still couldn't get the tenant out. Love California regulations, and so tenant friendly, and it's so awesome. Overall, and decided, okay, I might never do this again. Then that second home got too small, or we wanted something larger, and said, all right, let's just do it again because we love the pain. So kept that one, bought a third one. We had already sold the first one. Luckily enough, it appreciated enough that all those 9 months or 10 months of rent missing out evened itself out, didn't care. Bought a third one, and luckily, the second time around, we had amazing tenants, took care of everything on their own, barely reached out, paid on time, didn't even use 40% of the house because one of the spouses was disabled or had gone through some healthcare stuff. So they didn't even use the second story. And I said, wow, this was amazing. They did so good. Appreciate it again. Sold that. And only then did we decide, okay, you know what? Let's just go ahead and sell the house we live in too. We're done with being homeowners. Don't like all this maintenance that we have to do in our own house. And let's just become tenants. Apparently everybody loves being tenants. Let's just become tenants. And when we sold that second home of ours, both homes, and I had no own real estate, I was in no debt anymore. I had 0 debt to my name. and just liquid cash assets, some in the stock market and stuff, IRAs, but mostly all stock, liquid cash, and decided, okay, wow, that's a big number to have in your bank account. We should do something with this. And in 2017, one of my close friends had asked me to get started in real estate investing. We didn't have all this cash back then, but I decided, okay, you know what? It's a good idea. Let's get into it. Started investing out of state and slowly but surely built up that portfolio to about 8 units in rentals within a year. Started doing private lending and went from 1 transaction in 2018 to 6 transactions by the end of 2018 as a lender, which is now up to 300 transactions as a private lender for me. And when that money came in 2018, we said, okay, well, let's just scale this up. And then is when I realized, okay, I just leveraged primary residences and selling them to actually become an accredited investor with no need to look at primary residence, no need to look at all these tertiary assets. It's just looking at liquid cash assets. I can qualify as an accredited investor based on investing in the right homes as just a primary home buyer and exiting them at the right time. So I think that's something that a lot of people don't usually think about, right? It's you buy a home, it's forever home. And I think on average, people's mortgages last about 4.5 years, I think in the US is the official cycle. And so every 5 years, you're switching your homes anyways. See if you can leverage the cycle to sell high, rent for a little bit, buy low again, and do it all over again to then sort of treat your home as one of those assets rather than just a liability that costs you a mortgage and a PITI every month. So that was one of the key things that I used. And of course, having started in real estate investing in 2017, by the time 2019 rolled around, we had set up a 2.5-month vacation through my jobs. W-2 was approved in December of 2019, December of 2018. I told them, hey, listen, I'm gone in June of 2019. And they said, well, that's 6 months away. You're fine. Don't worry about it. Take your time. So I booked like 8.5, 9 weeks of vacation time, and I had enough time saved up. My wife, same thing, approved, done, and deal. But by the time middle of 2019 came around, I came home one day on a Thursday and said, babe, I think I'm done. I'm just done with this job. I hate it. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm not happy. I think I'm just going to quit. And she's like, haha, good job. Sure. And then Friday morning before going to work, she's like, I thought about what you said. Let's talk about it later today. And then over the weekend, did all the math, literally ran down every bit of incoming and outgoing payments across credit cards, bank accounts, didn't matter what it was. Every penny was accounted for in the spreadsheet. And by Sunday afternoon, she's like, all right, you're good to go. You can retire tomorrow morning. And I was like, what? Are you sure? She's like, yeah, I got benefits. That'll take care of us. I got income. That'll take care of us. Go focus on the investing. Make sure its income matches or beats what you were making, like you said you would. And I think it will be fine. It's like, well, what if it takes me like a year to build that up? Don't care. We got reserves. Go for it. And so that just mentally said, whoa, my wife is on board. We know financially we can make this happen. So literally by Monday morning, I had already drafted up a letter, told my manager, gave them like a 6-8 week notice just because I didn't need to quit that then. And I was going to be leaving for that travel in about 8-9 weeks anyway. So I was like, all right, well, let's just time it so that I quit my job, have a week, and then go on this amazing vacation across 9 countries and just enjoy ourselves. So that's what ended up happening. But that's the long version of how I went from W-2 to getting enough assets to building a real estate portfolio that I could support this. And then with the support of my wife, just was able to take that plunge and get out of it.
So when you had sold your home to become tenants and take out that the liquidity from those homes, that was still while you were working your W-2 full-time job.
Yep, that was.
And then from there, you purchased some rental units outside of California
For sure.
while you're still working with that liquidity. And that got you up to 8 units. And then you took a portion of that and you also use it as a lender for private money lending.
Yep.
Can I ask, how did you split, or what portion of it went to the 8 units, and how much did you keep in to utilize as private lending? And then what were some of the calculations you did to make sure that you had enough income coming in to cover your expenses?
Yeah, so I think having my wife as a full-time employee that had that steady income sort of helped me not have to constantly be worried about, oh my God, I need to make this amount every month. So my goal was always, okay, I have like 6 to 10 to 12 months to build up my income to the level that it was at my previous job. And so that gave me some flexibility, and I wasn't as rigid on the monthly thing. But overall, those 8 units was all about, they were cheaper units. I think I was buying them at 20 to 25,000 a unit, all cash, all in, and then doing some rehab. So maybe like 30,000 a unit all in. And that's nothing compared to, when you go buy a multifamily complexes now at $100, $150, $1,000 a door. But I was able to buy those all cash. And when I saw how much I still left over, I was building networks in that market. So I was doing it all in Indianapolis. And in that market, I was building relationships with other investors, brokers, rehab guys, flippers, contractors, GCs, wholesalers, just a regular part of growing your network as you're becoming an investor in any market. And one of those wholesalers asked me for a loan for a property that they wanted to take down and then wholesale it, which is at that point, they leveraged private money to take control of the asset, put maybe 5, 10, 15, some low amount of money into it. And then as brokers themselves, they go ahead and list it on their own brokerage and keep the profits and their fees so that they can sell it on the retail market while they procured it in a wholesale market. And so I looked at that deal. It was a big amount. It was a $250,000 loan, and I'd never done one before. So within 2 weeks, I just got some cursory information about, okay, what does it take? How am I secured? What am I going to make? And what's my downside, upside, calculated all that. I was okay with the risk, took it. And weeks later, the money came back with a great amount of interest, points, fees, all that jazz. And I said, holy crap, I can't imagine, how long it would have taken me as a rental to get this amount of money, and with no headaches. I don't have to deal with tenant screenings. I don't have to deal with payments on a monthly basis, none of that jazz. And that really got me excited about the private lending space. And that's why I ramped that up a lot more than I ramped up acquisitions of units on my own. And I think that's what the key thing is. You need to figure out what is your primary goal, how much time and energy are you willing to commit to achieving that goal, and then design your strategy to match that, the plan that you have. Because just like we've said, private lending is one, getting rental units is another, or investing in syndications could be a third, or overall just being a capital raiser for other investors, or a fund manager, or employee, right? These are all strategies of generating income that can meet a certain goal. But if you need to make sure that you have $500,000 a year in spending money because that's your lifestyle, maybe real estate investing from the beginning is never going to meet that. And you need to be in big, IT sales, tech sales or something to be able to generate that, but you're going to dedicate 70 to 80 hours a week, not be seen by anyone, and you may get to $500,000 a year. But if you're okay starting off modest, or you have a backup plan and you have something to rely on to then get into the strategies, try a couple of things out, see what you like, see what really excites you, see what gets you happy. Because if you're not happy in what you're doing, whether it's investing or a job, I don't think you're going to be as successful as you want to be.
When you decided to try out the private money lending side of things, what did you do to educate yourself, and how did you structure that first loan, especially it was being the first one?
Yeah,
and that's a pretty large amount of money as for the first private money lending opportunity out there.
Yeah, I believe me, I went through the jitters, the pain, the scary night, waking
Sleepless
up.
Nights,
oh my God, did I just wire $250,000? What the heck is wrong with me? And so I think I talked to a couple of title companies. I talked to 2 or 3 different lawyers in that Indianapolis market. I talked to a broker. I talked to the borrower themselves, who had done probably 100 of these before that. They gave me all the loan document templates, walked through any questions I might have asked, talked about timelines, what's my risk? What's my recourse look like? How do I get this money back? God forbid something goes wrong. And okay, I want title insurance. I want property insurance. I want da 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 da. Like, whatever I could hear like on Bigger Pockets through podcasts to whatever the lawyers were telling me. I want this. I want this. I want this. And it's just going down this list of I want this, 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 this. And they're like, yeah, that's standard. That's standard. That's standard. We even do this that you didn't ask for. Oh dang! I didn't know anything about this, right? So they're like, well, we've done 100 and whatever of these before you, so we got this. And I think that's what got me comfortable to say, all right, well, fine. If they're willing to offer me more than what I asked for as security or sort of blanket statements, then fine, I'll just go with it. And just make sure you go through title companies. Anytime you do a loan or even acquisitions, just make sure you leverage either a lawyer if that's what your state asks for, or at least a title company, and make sure somebody is sort of crossing the T's and dotting the I's on your transaction and making sure everything is signed and notarized and filed and recorded properly.
For the legal documentation and agreements for it, was it drafted by a specific specialized lawyer that is particular in the private money lending space, or did you utilize like any lawyer to be able to do that?
So I think they had already gone through the legal drafting process. So the borrower that I had already gone through multiple lawyers and had drafted a good looking note, and that I had reviewed. And it was one of those things where I didn't feel the need to then go to another third party lawyer and then have them draft up yet another note. So I leveraged their note that they had. I had the title company validate it. So most title companies offer you a note writing service where you can use it. And I think I would recommend that for more experienced lenders to then be able to leverage the note that the title company generates. But overall, for your first note, I think it's definitely best to have it drawn up by either someone who's specialized in real estate in that market, or specialized in private lending and does work in that market to know what the usury laws are, to know how the deeds work, to understand what kind of language they can add to protect you better. And of course, there's deeds in lieu of foreclosure, or you can have assignment of rents. And there's just so many different ways you can structure these loans. But I just remembered you had asked me how I structured it. I just basically said, I want a first position lien. I want to give you 90% of the purchase price, and everything else is on you. Closing costs, rehab, down payment, equity difference, all that is on you. And I don't want any points up front. I want no monthly payments. I just want one lump sum payment at the end with points and the interest built in. You just let me know when you're done with it. And I just want one payment out from my account and one payment back in. And they're like, all right, sounds good. That's how it got written up. That's what the note said. The mortgage reflected everything. And that was it. We were off to the races.
And so you gained the knowledge to be able to structure it in this way through Bigger Pockets, listening to the podcast, and consulting with lawyers and putting it together, and title companies, and putting this all together in a cohesive kind of package of what you wanted and what you didn't want.
Within 10 days, yes.
Within 10 days. So when you were looking at this, what were some of the different things that you also had to do in order to mitigate the risks on your end to be able to lend out and make you sleep even just a little bit at night, a little better at night?
I think getting a BPO from a trusted broker was one of the key factors there.
And a BPO
is a broker pricing opinion that I was able to get from a trusted broker in the market who had done deals in that market overall, quite a few of them. I had used him to buy all 8 of my units that I had. They knew the market. They were a property manager themselves, so they knew what kind of properties existed where, what kind of tenants they get, what kind of rents they get. And they were a broker, so they had listings and sales and purchases all the time. So relying on someone that you trust for valuations beyond, I didn't get an appraisal. I didn't do full appraisals. I didn't do full loan docs. I only lent to an LLC. So for me, their track record was a good thing. I knew they had done loans to a lot of people. I actually went to the county and looked up, hey, has this company done loans before? And I could see all these mortgages, deeds recorded from different lenders in the past. So I knew that they were successfully doing business. And that's one of the key things I always tell any of my investors if they're looking to do a private loan through me is say, hey, listen, just whatever property I send your way, just log into that county's website, check the LLC that I'm telling you is going to be the borrower, and validate that they've actually done business in the past as a borrower. And so you can see those deed transfers and purchase and sales on Redfin, Zillow, or anywhere you want to track it and say, yep, they've actually done business. Loan amounts show up, payoffs show up. So it's a very easy, simple, free way of validating that you're dealing with a qualified borrower. And then at that point, that BPO and checking their track record and talking to the title companies and making sure everything was done well sort of gave me the confidence to say, all right, I've done this right. I didn't just wire some guy some money. It's not going to be released to them unless all of these things are met and all of my requirements are met. Only then can the title company actually release the funds. So we're okay. And yeah, it worked out really well.
Now, how did you find, or how did the borrower find you? And were you, so when you were discussing it, were you letting people know that you were lending money out, or it was just through a conversation?
It was just more like, hey, listen, Jaspreet, I know you're buying properties because I know you bought at least 2 from me so far as a wholesaler. And I know you're looking at all these other deals that you bought. So clearly you have the money. Would you be interested in leveraging your money in another way in real estate versus just buying and acquiring and flipping or holding properties? And that's when that conversation sort of led to, all right, yeah, I can be a lender.
So out of all the transactions that you've done, you've said you've done it 300 at this point in time. Has there ever been a point where you didn't get your money back after lending it? And can you share a story?
So far, 0% default, foreclosure, loss of principal, or loss of interest. And a vast majority of those loans have already come back. So they've already gone full cycle. And full disclosure, I mean, I don't have enough money to lend out 300 times. So it's always the money is cycled as it comes back, it gets loaned out. And if I don't have the money, then I have a set of investors that I can reach out to that are interested in private lending, that have spoken to me many times. They understand how it works. They rely on my expertise. And then I help them place their money into these loans. So I'm through it till closing or through closing. And even after closing, if they have any issues, they reach out to me. I prepare extension documents if needed. But overall, I'd say there's maybe one loan so far that I could go into foreclosure on, but the borrower is working with me, is CCing me on emails with their refinance lender, actively sharing information. So I know that it's not ill intent or a bad property. It's just the market doing what the market does. It's slowed down. They're not getting the valuations they want, or the buyers are backing out. All that stuff is happening. So I'm not one of those people to say, all right, well, by the letter of the law, I should start a foreclosure process to spend even more money on something that is not going to be worthwhile in the end. So it's better to just write that out, write an extension document, legally extend it, charge more points or fees, but keeping it sort of active and alive and keeping that communication channel open has worked out really well for me in the past. So overall, no, I haven't had any defaults or foreclosures. But yeah, delayed payments, sure. But that's when you sort of leverage that private lending part of private lending versus a hard money or a institution or a fund or just any old regular bank, because retail financing doesn't allow that flexibility, doesn't allow communication. By the time you talk to anybody with authority, you've wasted 6 weeks because everybody below them kept telling you no. And so having the power of just being able to text your borrower and the borrower being able to text me directly and say, hey, Jaspreet, I might need an extension in 3 weeks. All right, sounds good. What do you need it for? What happened? What's going wrong? Do you need any help? All right. Nope. All right. Sounds good. Let's just type it up, extend it. Here's what I'm going to charge you for the extension. All right. Sounds good. And I need you to make a partial payment. All right. Sounds good. Everything is agreed to. You find a way to negotiate and agree on things and move forward rather than being stuck in this box of, well, I only lend to borrowers with this credit score, with this LTVs, right? Everything is negotiable as a private lender. And that's what's so unique about this space.
What's a typical average hold time that you would lend it out to, like a term period?
3 to 6 months.
3 to 6 months. And then in terms of like rates and everything like that, compared to what the market is doing, what is a typical like average rate that you would usually provide?
I would say annualized, I'm looking at least 12 to 14%, if not higher. Depends on the duration of it and the points and the fees that get added on. But somewhere in that 12 to 14 range is what I like to achieve for my loans. But sometimes the market dictates otherwise, or repeat borrowers, it's easier to bring that down because you're at a lower risk now. So it all just depends. But I would say at least 10%, 12 to 14 is the desired.
And in today's market, if someone was looking to get started in this private money lending business, what would be the first thing that, you did, or you would, I guess, maybe recommend or advise them to at least get started with first?
To be honest, I would recommend that they actually talk to someone like me or someone else they know who does it like I do, to be able to leverage somebody's network of qualified borrowers, network of qualified legal, broker, and GC contacts in the market that they want to do this in. Don't do it in your backyard. I mean, yeah, it's great and easy to just be able to drive up to the property, but sometimes it's cost prohibitive. Like if I wanted to lend to somebody in Northern California where I live, they would reach out for at least a $750,000 loan to start, plus another $250,000 in rehab just to be able to get to the property at the 2 million mark, right? And so it's not always easy and doable to just start at that level. So it's maybe better to start out of state, or if you are in one of those states where it's easy enough and you can afford it, I think it's a good habit to talk to brokers, understand how the market is doing. Are the property valuations going like flat, or are they going trending down? Are they trending up over the last 90 days? Please don't look at 6-month CMAs. Those are no longer valid. That's one thing I would say for this market. Don't look at a April sale and say, oh, well, yeah, this property sold in April for this price. Well, April through June was a big enough change. June through October is a big enough change. Here we are in November. It's only going to get worse as the winter months come up. People are moving less, whether it's rain or cold or snow or whatever. You just see a lot less movement. So home sales take longer in general. Loan applications are already down for the year. So just watch the news, understand what kind of market you're walking into, set some parameters as to how you want to invest. Because I have not once in those 300 times ever lent rehab funds. It's something I don't want to do, and wouldn't really be interested in doing ever, because that increases my risk. And that's not why I got into the game. I want to reduce risk, lower my headaches, lower the amount of time and headache and energy I spend on this, and enjoy my time more. So yeah, just reduce your risk whatever way you think you can, and do some research. Loan through somebody like me or somebody else who does what I do, so that you can then rely on their experience, their notes, mortgage, personal guarantee documents, their process, their appraisals, their underwriting, and say, all right, well, let's just learn. Even if it's for 1 or 2 loans and you go through someone to do that, you can then learn all that and then go do it on your own.
What is the biggest mistake you typically see a newer private lender make in this space?
Trusting but not verifying. The guy told me he could yada, yada, yada. It would only take this much money and time. Well, did you take a look at the photos of the property? Because that looks like it's gutted to the bare bones and has no electrical or plumbing. And the guy told you he can get the whole house done for 15 grand. And you said, okay. I mean, sure, I believe in miracles, but come on. Drywall alone is going to be 15 grand there. So, it's just one of those things where they trust but not verify, whether it be in documentation, property valuation, timelines, or just anything that you should be looking at in general. It's good to trust, but you got to verify on your own. Leverage any resources you can find, whether it be paying for third-party appraisals, inspections, BPOs, anything that you can do, because you spending a couple $100 up front could save you thousands or tens of thousands down the road in legal costs or lost principal, any of that nature. And it's just better to verify than to just trust what you've been told.
And Jaspreet, how has real estate investing impacted your life so far?
Well, I think overall, it's given me way more time to travel and focus on my family. And that is something that was almost impossible with work. Yeah, great. I was able to get that 6, 8 week, 10 time, travel approved, but I had to do that in 6 months in advance. This year alone, we decided on a whim, you know what, we're going to go to India. And then while we're going to India, we're going to go ahead and detour in Turkey for a week. Oh, sounds good. Well, since we're there, can we just stop in Dubai for 3, 4 days? Yeah, sounds like a plan. All right, why not? Right? That's something you can't just do when you have a W-2 and you have, as an IT person, releases of software, or as a compliance person, a compliance report due to the regulator in 3 weeks, or as a project manager and your project's going live in 3 weeks. Whatever the case is, you have deadlines that are way beyond your control that then dictate when, how, and how much you can do things that you're passionate about. Whether it's attending golf tournaments across the country, or taking your RV across the country or cross countries, or taking flights and going to travel internationally. So it's just, I think fueling your passion becomes a lot easier when you are doing things on your own terms while still being able to generate enough income to support yourself on a monthly basis, create enough savings, and keep investing.
So I have to ask also, because you've traveled to so many different countries at this point in time, where is your favorite place to go?
I would say so far, there's quite a few, but on the top of my list is Turkey right now. After having just spent a week there this year, it was amazing to see the culture, the food, the religions, the history, the people, the landscapes. It's, to be able to go from a hot air balloon ride over all these valleys and canyons at 4 a.m. to then the next day going 7 stories underground into an underground city, or 2 of them that were excavated out 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 years ago, and then being able to go to Istanbul and say, all right, this was Constantinople. I mean, imagine the history of so many regimes and so many different kingdoms, and overall just people that have gone through there, right? You've got Christianity, you've got Islam, you've got Rome, just so many of these empires that were built and sort of fell apart there. And yeah, I would say that is one of the best places I've been to in a long time.
And so what's next on the list?
I think we want to do more of the Eastern European. So we'll see. We've already done. So we started in England, picked up a car. That was 2019, and took the ferry over to France. Immediately went into Belgium, Luxembourg, Switzerland, France. So did the whole Nice, Monte Carlo, Monaco, and French Riviera, into Spain, the whole Spanish coastline, into Portugal, the whole Portuguese coastline, and then went back up into Madrid, and then flew to India, Japan, and back. And overall, I would say now I want to get further east of that and go, all right, let's just do Germany and Netherlands, and then South America. A lot of that is still left. So yeah, there's a lot of countries to go. So we're excited. And I mean, whether it's domestic or international, we're ready to go whenever. My kids just, I think a couple of weeks ago, said, hey, Dad, a 7-year-old at dinner table, I was thinking we just came back from some travel. Can we go somewhere again? Sure. Let's just pull up a map on Google Flights and see what good. How about Finland? What 7-year-old talks about Finland? Why would you even know that? It's not a country I talk about. Or, oh yeah, Frozen movie and the glaciers and the this. And so I want to see, and fjords, and oh my God. All right. Well, I guess we're looking at that next. Great. So yeah, there's who knows where we go next, but definitely travel.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun.
Yeah.
And Jaspreet, what is the one thing that you wish you knew about real estate that you wish you knew when you first started?
I think just the number of avenues that you can use to be in the real estate game, right? We talked about a few already, as buying rentals on your own, whether through HELOCs or cash or IRA funds or whatever you use to acquire assets, cash producing assets, hopefully, not just appreciating assets that will never pay you for the next 10 years until you sell them. Or you can be a private lender. You can be a limited partner in syndications. You can JV with syndicators or other operators. You can go ahead and be a land developer, a land flipper, a wholesaler, a subject to property investor. It's just, there is so many ways you can be in the real estate space and so many different avenues you can take depending on how active you want to be. And I think that's something I wish I knew, because at the beginning, to me, real estate investing was you buy a rental, you have a tenant, they pay you rent every month, and hope to God you make some money every month. And after all your expenses, and then keep doing it over and over again. And you're going to have this amazing portfolio by the time you retire that you can pass on to your kids. And that's not the only way of real estate investing. There's just so many different avenues that I wish I knew about. I may have started sooner.
And what is the one thing that sets the successful real estate investors apart?
I think people who find a balance of being able to do their due diligence, yet take action quickly, is, I think, what gets people successful. Because if you get stuck in analysis paralysis and you're just constantly worried about the what ifs, and you take forever to make a decision on a deal, and whether the price changes or the real estate market changes or the rates change or it gets sold or whatever happens to that property or any other asset you're looking at, and then you constantly keep fear of, oh my God, what if happens to me again? Or people who back away because of one bad experience. So I think it's the balance of saying, I'm going to do enough so that I am safe and I understand the risks, and then I'm going to do enough to mitigate those risks, but take action, because without action, you're never going to be successful.
Awesome. Well, Jaspreet, thank you so much. And for our listeners out there who also want to find out more about what you're doing, where's the best place that they can go?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn. I think that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. Just look up my name, Jaspreet Baveja, on LinkedIn or Google. And I'm sure you'll find me on a couple of different websites from our Fairwinds Capital Investments team that does multifamily acquisitions, which is how we're at the large number of units in assets under management, or my private lending space under JGB LLC. My phone number's on there, WhatsApp, email. Just reach out and let's talk.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all of your time today, Jaspreet.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
And thank you for listening to our podcast today, brought to you by Bonavest Capital. We would really appreciate it if you can go to iTunes right now and leave a rating and written review. Also, please don't forget to subscribe so you can always get the latest episodes. You can also connect with us on Facebook, How Did They Do It Real Estate. We'd love to hear your feedback and any topics that you're interested in for future episodes. Lastly, to learn more about us, you can go to bonavestcapital.com and fill out the Contact Us page so you can speak to us directly. Nothing on the show should be considered as specific personal advice. Please consult your legal, tax, and real estate professionals for individualized advice.